Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an issue that's concerned me for a long time. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act has some problems. Those problems have been on live display today. They've been on live display over the last few years. I've been working over the last decade to try to reform them. I've forced a number of bipartisan proposals to do precisely that, most recently with the Lee-Leahy Amendment, one that passed the Senate, that would have passed the House, but the vote for it was canceled. I hope still to get that passed. It is a dangerous thing to provide the enormous investigative power of the United States government with as much authority as it has, and then to put that in a private, secret set of proceedings. These have worried me for a long time. We've got to reform them. I remember, Mr. Comey, when you were first nominated to be the FBI director. I had been in the Senate for a few years by then. I hadn't had a lot of previous interactions with you, but I knew you, and I felt I knew you well. I remembered fondly some interaction I had with you as a young prosecutor. You visited the U.S. Attorney's Office in Salt Lake City, and you gave us a really encouraging speech in which you gave your heartfelt sentiments about what it means to be an assistant United States attorney. I remember specifically your admonition that it's important in a job like that where you have to see things that, as you put it, people shouldn't have to see. It's important to love someone. It's important to dot your I's and cross your T's. And I remember something inspiring you said. You said, if somebody woke me up, at the time you were serving either as the Deputy Attorney General or the head of the Criminal Division of the Department of Justice, I'm not sure which. You said, in the middle of the night, if someone woke me up and they would say, "Who are you?" I would identify myself as an assistant United States attorney because deep down, that's who I am. That inspired in me for many years a level of commitment when representing the United States government to make sure that I was thorough. You inspired me. For that reason, when you were nominated to the position of FBI director, even though I had some grave concerns with the FBI and how it was administering FISA at the time, I trusted you. I believed that you would act in good faith when I asked you in my office and later in committee hearings, first in your confirmation hearing and then in all of our subsequent oversight hearings, what you would do to help make sure that the FISA process was respected and not manipulated. You gave me your word. And having established that brief relationship with you all those years earlier, I trusted you. I have to say today, I'm very disappointed to see that those promises now to me seem very insincere. Now, Mr. Comey, with all due respect, you don't seem to know anything about an investigation that you ran. So how can you now, as a private citizen and former FBI director, show up and then speculate freely regarding any alleged ties between President Putin and President Trump? I heard you say just a moment ago, now I hope I misunderstood you. Please correct me if I did. I think I heard you say that you still speculate they might have something on President Trump because of how President Trump refers or doesn't refer to President Putin in public. This, of course, takes into account nothing about the fact that sources you've relied on in the past have turned out not to be accurate. You didn't identify the inaccuracies subsequently to the FISA court. It acknowledges nothing about the fact that there are perfectly reasonable explanations as to why one leader would refer to a foreign leader in a certain tone, or the fact that this is the same tone that he uses in referring to other world leaders, particularly those world leaders in parts of the country where we've had some issues. So honestly, how can you as a private citizen now come to us and in your capacity as former FBI director and speculate so freely regarding these alleged ties when you don't seem to know anything about this investigation that you ran?
I'm sorry, Senator. I can as a private citizen because I have eyes and ears. And I said in response to the question, that's how it strikes me watching the president in Helsinki take Putin's side against his own intelligence community and lots of stuff like that. And so I separate the two. I agree with you. There are serious reasons to worry about the FISA process when the Inspector General found errors in every FISA application. And that's a really important thing to dig into, and I respect this committee looking at it. And so that's how I think about those two things.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that we share that in common. That's something we can build on. That's fantastic. Why do you not think that you had a duty to provide all the information to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court? I mean, you signed the renewal application, did you not?
I signed the certification, which is very narrow.
Got it. What does that mean? What the heck does the certification mean? If you weren't required to know, and in fact did not know what was in there, and if you didn't have any duty to provide all the information to the court, what does that certification mean?
Well, I was trying to say, Senator, when you started speaking again, the certification is narrow that the FBI director has to sign, but that doesn't change the fact that the FBI has a duty of candor, of heightened candor to the FISA court, and it wasn't met according to the Inspector General here. That's a separate question from whether the FBI director should have been briefed on the individual portions of the Carter Page investigation. I know people care about that. Much more important, why were there material omissions, not just in this application, but in all the applications that the Inspector General looked at? So I think that's a really important question.
Okay. We have to remember that the only reason, the people who did this, I'm confident, number one, that the circumstantial evidence suggests that there likely was a political motive. In fact, one of the reasons that we know that is that in various documents that we've obtained, we can see political motives coming into consideration. But in many instances, those individuals didn't believe they had any chance of getting caught. They believed Hillary Clinton was going to win. Had she won, in all probability, none of this would have come to light. How should this strike the American people, the average American citizen, knowing that any American citizen could get caught into the same type of trap, could become the subject of an investigation rooted in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act? It would never come to light. If in this circumstance, where there was always a possibility that it would come to light, and it did come to light because the individual who was connected to the investigation became elected president of the United States, despite the best efforts or perhaps the expectations of those conducting in the investigation. How should they have any confidence in the FISA process when certifications were provided, but the full information wasn't? When the duty of candor to the court wasn't met, when no one seems to take accountability for anything, and this entire process is handled in secret with a malleable standard, leaving it almost without accountability. Should the American people have any confidence in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court or in those government lawyers appearing before it?
I'm not going to address your long preamble, which I have a significant disagreement with. The American people should always want to know how the government's power is being used, especially when it's being used in secret. How is it checked? How is it overseen? How is it balanced? And we know, because you've been around a long time too, that periodically we discover problems in any ex parte process. The American people should have confidence in the oversight of the Inspector General especially, and of this committee and your counterparts in the House to demand those answers. I think that's totally appropriate.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I see my time's expired. You don't install a wasp nest in your child's bedroom and then express surprise when the child gets bitten by wasps.
Stung.
You don't adopt an ex parte process and then express surprise and outrage when it goes completely unsupervised and off the rails. This is an issue that's neither Republican nor Democrat. It's neither liberal nor conservative. This is a constitutional issue. This is a moral issue, and we've got big problems. We need to pass the Lee-Leahy Amendment, and we need to reform or eliminate the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Thank you.
Senator Whitehouse.